here we are. I know that was a long intro. It seemed that way, but it felt like we were floating in a blue ocean for 30 seconds. What did you think, Lisa?
And can you hear me? Because it says that I'm muted.
I can hear you.
Okay,
You
so
were
I'm no longer muted.
right. It told you you were muted during that. It didn't want us to talk during that beautiful music on the intro.
Okay. Learning. This is
But
why Kevin is here. Kevin is here so he can help me with technology. So anyway, yeah, I'm excited to be here. We're both, Lisa Schermerhorn and Kevin Martin with the Center of Next Level Performance, cnlpcoaching.com. And this is our master mindset. And we wanted to talk to people about the importance of mindset and how we kind of got involved in this in the first place.
yeah, yeah, it's gonna be fun. Hey, we already got Joanne saying hello. Hey, Joanne, how are you? How are you? Yes, I love launching this master mindset with you, Lisa. We originally had a program called Mindset from the Mountaintop, and we filmed a few of them when I was up there in Vermont with you, and we filmed them outside so you could see the mountaintop. It was just awesome. It was just awesome. I love that. But I'm no longer in Vermont. I'm no longer in New England. I am out in Florida. So we can't call it, there's no mountaintop out here that I've seen. There's no hills out here that I've seen, except for man-made ones. So we can't call it that. So master mindset, Lisa and I are all about mindset. And CNLP, which is our new venture, which is really about Center for Next Level Performance. You don't get to the next level. You don't even move without the proper mindset. Right, Lisa? Lisa, what does mindset mean to you? Because we hear it all over the place, and some people just say, "Well, what do you mean mindset?"
The way I always explain it is it's the lens that you see the world through, right? So at some point, I love to tell this story. I met a golf pro who told me that he was an amazing putter, and he went to a tournament in Pennsylvania when he was 22 years old, and he just had a bad day. And someone walked up to him and said, "Gee, it's too bad that you don't know how to putt, because if you could putt, you'd be a phenomenal golf pro." So what happened? It changed his mindset. And for the next 20 years, he believed that he couldn't putt. So when I worked with him, I helped him remove that original belief system that he couldn't putt, and he could putt again. I mean, it's that crazy how these belief systems that we can take on by something that someone has said to us, and then suddenly that becomes our reality.
Yeah, it is that crazy, isn't it? Just something someone says to us can affect us not only for the day, 20 years.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's phenomenal. So our mindset is really, like you said, how we see the world, and even more important, how we feel about the world.
Yes.
Because our mindset is responsible for our attitudes, right?
Exactly.
So you can say in some cases our attitude is our mindset, because when you have an attitude when you go to one place, we can have many mindsets, can't we?
Yeah, depending upon our moods.
Yeah.
Some you wake up kind of cranky and you see the world through that lens, and then you're in a happy mood and you see the world through that lens. But what's interesting is what we do is really it's the underlying mindset that is running us that people aren't always aware of. And people will say, "Well, what does that mean?" Well, we're programmed throughout our life. And Dr. Bruce Lipton actually says that we're programmed the first 5 to 7 years of our life. So if you think about that, we're like, "Oh my God, I'm screwed." but we're programmed by our parents' traditions, our beliefs, our culture. Where in the country, do we live in the city, the country, scarcity mindset, if there was money issues or plenty of money. All these things have a huge impact on how we view the world, and that will put us on that hamster wheel, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It puts us on the hamster wheel of doing the same thing over and over. It's funny. I just read an article, and it was talking about the job situation in the youngest generations, and a lot of the younger people were brought up from parents who struggled when they were younger, but they didn't want their children to struggle.
Right.
So their children, as best they can, and it's not for all the kids out there, but a lot of them, as best they can, their parents did a lot for them, a lot more than they had done for them. And now we have a generation of people becoming adults that don't want to do blue collar labor because their parents had maybe come from that and had bettered themselves, and they don't want to go back to doing what their parents might have been doing. And so it was generational. It was like, okay, they've been taught in the environment, they've been taught to, I'm gonna poo poo this thing, I'm not gonna do the blue collar labor thing. And to me, I look at it and say, okay, some plumbers and electricians and HVAC guys, they are making $250,000 a year. What do you mean you don't want to be that?
There's a huge demand for them, right? But it goes deeper than that. When you think about, yes, you have, that can be inherited belief systems, like the parents are putting that, and but we can actually inherit ancestral trauma and
Yeah,
belief systems. So if you had a grandparent or great grandparent that survived a depression or a famine, you can inherit that belief and still and have that run you and not know where it comes from.
yeah, it's
So
amazing. Lisa, I want to tell you, we also have Charity on here and
yes.
Larry Kamir. I don't know.
Ah, I miss you all. Yeah.
Yeah. So it controls our mindset. And I love the idea, and this is what I teach all the time: 0 to 7, 0 to 8. That's our foundation. And I didn't used to use the word programming because when I grew up, there were so many, I want to say cults, but there were so many mind control factions out there. And when you talked about programming, you're talking about programming somebody for something and then needing to deprogram them. So I didn't used to like to use the word, but it's true. We are programmed. Whether it's not purposeful, but it just happens. We are programmed 0 to 7. That's our foundation, and that creates a basis for our mindset. Now, if our mindset isn't what we isn't healthy, isn't what we need to move forward to get to that next level, that is where someone like Lisa and I come in, because
Yes.
that's that more internal part, right, Lisa, that you started to talk about.
Yeah, you ask the question, why is your mindset important? It's because most people don't realize how much it runs us. For instance, my own story is about, as a child, I had undiagnosed learning disabilities. And so I grew up thinking that I wasn't smart, I didn't do well in school, and I didn't think I'd ever really amount to anything. And as I got older, I started to find things that I was interested in, but I couldn't stop studying because I never felt smart enough. So if you look at my certifications, you crack up because in my folder with all of my diplomas and certifications is about this thick because I never felt smart enough to do my work. And finally someone said to me, Lisa, you got to stop studying. You have more wisdom than you know what to do with. It starts to really start acting on it. And I finally started to realize that I was smart. I just learned differently. And when I realized that I learned differently, just like we have the Dr. Harold Gardner talks about the 9 different types of intelligence, everyone has their own brilliance. And so once I realized that I was smart, I was able to let go of the old belief systems that I had that I wasn't smart. So that doesn't run me anymore. So does that mean that I don't go out and learn anymore? I still do, but I don't do it because I have to. I do it because it's a choice. It's because it's something that I find that's interesting that I would like to add to my toolbox, not because oh my God, if I don't take this, I'm not going to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
And so the difference in with mindset and the underlying subconscious belief systems is one is running you unconsciously and you feel compelled to do it versus having control and understanding that you have taken this, you're in your power and you're making decisions based on you being in your power.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually making those decisions. And I love that. And I also think of mindset, and Lisa, tell me if you do too. I also think of it as you said, when you're looking at the world, people can look at a world in a very positive manner. People can look at the world in a very negative manner.
Right.
And some people have very negative mindsets, don't they?
Yes.
And
And yeah.
go ahead.
No, we refer to them as that there's a fixed mindset versus um,
A growth.
the growth mindset, right? So the fixed
Right.
mindset is that everything is fixed and you can't learn anything new, and your intellect is just there. And I said, thank God I didn't believe that because I'd be in deep trouble,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially after my SAT score.
Oh, I just when I talked about negative mindset, I actually refer to them as negative Nellies, right? There are people in our lives and people all over the place that are very negative. And the thing with a negative mindset, as opposed to a positive mindset, a negative mindset, that's your lens. So if you're thinking negatively, you see all the negative, and it's all verified for you, and you think, wow, see, I was right. Life is crap, right?
It can
And
be.
yeah, but it is mostly for those people that think that way in the first place, right? They get all that validation. And so for people with positive mindsets, people with a positive mindset doesn't mean that they think they believe everything is going to turn out positive. It's that they have a very positive outlook towards things. And if things don't work out, they say, okay, that didn't work out. And so why? And maybe I can make it work out better, or maybe the next thing's going to work out, or whatever. That's the positive mindset I'm talking about. And that's also the growth mindset, by the way.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so when you have that, when you're looking for a positive lens, and when the power of positive thinking came out in the 70s and 80s, I remember people thinking, you can't look at the world in rose-colored glasses. It's just not that way. Well, the world is the way you perceive it to begin with.
Exactly.
Right? It's the world is the way you perceive it. And I'd much rather perceive it in rose-colored glasses than in dark, stormy glasses.
So here's something that I do for myself, and bad things happen in our lives, right? And I look at every circumstance and every situation that I've had in my life as a teaching moment. It's a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I do is I say to myself, what is the world doing for me instead of to me, right? So one is a victim mentality, and the other one is an empowered way to look at it. Yes, Charity, it's about, the rose-colored glasses, but I look at things, so when something has happened, I look at it, how did this happen for me instead of to me? Because when we start thinking that the world is all happening to us, we come at it from a victim mentality, and then we feel helpless. And we're looking, and then we start to blame other people and other circumstances. And another thing is I like to talk about, and we both do a lot of work around timeline, right? So we have our timelines, and we can go back and change something from our past, not what happened, but how you think about it. When you change the way you think about something that happened to you in the past, it's like a domino effect. I like to say it's like time travel for your emotions.
Mm.
And I actually had I did a video on that a while back, and someone contacted me and asked me if I could help them literally time travel. And I was like, no. We're just going back to visit those old emotions, shifting and changing them, and then seeing it from that different lens. But we can also future see, right, Kevin?
Yes, we can future see. It's an amazing thing. We're doing it all the time. Most of the time, we're future seeing with this thing we call worry, and we're worrying about the worst case. That's future seeing, right? But we can plant, just like we can plant those worst case scenarios in our head. We can plant the best case scenarios. We can plant the good scenarios, and we can future see. We can look and say, okay, this is in the future, in my timeline in the future. This is exactly what's going to happen, and it's wonderful, absolutely wonderful when you can do that.
Well, because here's something that's interesting. I like people to think about this. When you envision something, just like your creator, there's visionaries, they have this vision that you create, and now it's out there. So now it exists.
Mm-hmm.
It exists. Now you have to do the work to make it happen so it grounds itself. It becomes possible. So if you create your own future and you set that intention and you create that timeline. So I'm always saying, when people say doom and gloom, I always say, not on my timeline. And I create my own timeline and then I work towards that. And you can get into the whole metaphysical stuff, and that's a whole different conversation. But I invite people to really think about, what do you want your world to look like? Is there anything that's getting in your way, a belief or a thought? Because when you have a belief or a thought that gets in your way, it blocks you. It's like a big boulder that's in the highway, keeping you from getting to your destination or your goal. When you remove that boulder, you created that new timeline, and now you can step forward to it and create it.
Yeah, it's wonderful, and you're right about in the past, because I used to have a program, and I called it "Isn't it about time you had a good childhood?"
Or stop blaming your parents. You know,
Yeah.
I said, now that
Yeah.
I have grown children of my own, how do I feel about my kids blaming me for every single thing that's ever gone wrong in their life? And at some point, you have to start taking responsibility for your decisions, and start thinking about, you're responsible for creating the life that you want.
That's
And
right.
yeah.
And I would tell my children that at 2 years old. Now, Joan wrote that she loves the person she has become because of the things that she's gone through. Now, she's a person, I talked to her just recently, that looks at her past and all what, we see as big obstacles and problems and issues, and she looks at all the good things that came out of it. And so I love that. I told her I love that in her. There's not too many people that can do that.
It's a special mindset, and it's a learned one. I didn't have that for the longest time. But when you look at all of those circumstances as a gift, like Joan does, then you can see how the world has formed you and how you can take those gifts. One of the things I like to talk to people about is, what are the challenges that have happened in your life? How have you overcome them? And what are you doing with the wisdom that you have after overcoming them to serve others in the world? What are you doing with that? Because that becomes your purpose. Because no one else knows that pain like you did,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the mindset of overcoming that belief, and then that's your gift to the world. What do you want to do with that? And what I learned was, when I was suicidal and I was in that dark place, because my mindset was in that dark place, and because of that, I had to do this deep dive. And I learned, and suddenly I started feeling better, because I found these other techniques that were unique and different, because conventional means weren't working. Found cutting edge things, and the more I studied, the more I worked, the more I realized that not only was I getting better, that I had the ability to help others. And we all get motivated for different reasons, because I did this for me. Your story began, yes, it was for you, but you did it for someone else in your family that then brought that out, and you have made significant changes in people's lives because of the way that impacted you.
Exactly, and it is. I remember that moment when my son got over a lot of issues that he had from his 0 to 3 or 0 to 4 actually, and I said I want to have that impact on others too. We're a little over time. So what is your close? What would you like to leave us with, Lisa, on my?
Well, well, Kevin and I have spent many, many years between the two of us, probably over 30 years of experience helping people. And we help individuals as well as businesses because, we have mindset issues at work as well as in our personal lives. And if you're good at work, then you need to be good at home. You need the help in both places, right? Or if you're having trouble at home, it reflects in your work. So we're available to people if they want to learn more about, what mindset coaching is or want to figure out what's stopping them from getting into their purpose, their why, and having joy in their life.
Yeah, and you can reach us easily at www.cnlpcoaching.com. And if you just wanted to have a conversation and get know a little bit more about that, we definitely would love to get on a call with you, a Zoom call, text messaging, whatever. Something that Lisa and I are passionate about is this.
Yeah.
And we love to spread the word and help anybody in any which way we can. So just reach out to us and on Facebook, on LinkedIn, or at cnlpcoaching.com. All right, all. Take care.
Take care.
Have a great day. You too, John.